is that what is very much in awakening and very much on the rise as we speak in the current phases of evolutionary progression of our species, of us as human beings and the entire planet, which is never separate. It's one living organism. We are just that most evolved creatures in a sense that we are most evolved, that we are embedded with that physiology and the nervous system which allows that to experience simultaneously, which allows us to be aware of awareness itself, which allows us to be aware of experience. Whatever that experience is, there is possibility of being aware of that experience taking place. That's a very unique feature in evolution, in overall evolution of the planet. This is where planet itself becomes aware of itself through the instrumentality of the human body. So that awakening what many teachers, many spiritual leaders and great prophets of the past have spoken about, that awakening of the sacred feminine, it's very much the awakening of that latent power, latent energy that all of us possess deep within, that all of us have in equal measure, but to a degree with which that power manifests itself, or with the degree with which that sliver of that power manifests itself, that's what makes all the difference. But in general, if we speak about it in terms of the real spiritual transformative processes, it is that power that is transformation itself. There's no other power out there or in here that can be compared with that all transformative power known as the sacred feminine. So the soul itself here, the Eve of the Adam, the Eve is the has the very quality, has the very feminine quality. Feminine, not in terms of the gender, although some certain, like say, behavioral patterns could be observed. But it is that which both male and female bodies possess in equal measure. And yoga, quite frankly, speaks about this process with tremendous clarity. It is that process of unification, that process of unification. Unification even on that level of that individuality. And this is where I'd like to take you to this very important understanding that with this, let's say, dominance on the scene, the so-called neo-advaita, or non-duality, where we are welcomed to just walk into the absolute reality out of that, let's say, state of ignorance, out of that state of darkness, of not knowing who we are, suddenly stepping into absolute reality is impossible in as much as there's this still rupture has not been reconciled. So before we become one with who we are, as paradoxical as this sounds, we have to reconcile that what we are not on the level of human physiology, on the level of a human psyche. The psyche has to be healed first, and the healing of a psyche takes place within this. It takes place within the unifying waves of masculine and feminine within. So there is this face of Sadashiva, one half of a face masculine, one half of a face feminine, and the whole entire being embodies that in equal measure to a degree when nothing is lost. So it is getting in touch with that sacred feminine. Don't forget, being a woman does not necessarily automatically gives that privilege. Being a woman in the society which dominated by masculine views archetypally speaking, being dominated by the patriarchal way of imparting knowledge, which is inseparate from imperialism, from militarism, and what have you. You know, the list can continue with colonialism. These are quintessentially patriarchal qualities that we've inherited from the age when institutionalized religions, right, ruled together with the governmental structure of whatever given culture. That alliance, that deadly alliance, is deeply ingrained in our DNA, and it will take time for us to transcend it, to repair, to let that DNA vibrate with freedom, so that that sacred feminine can gain its momentum again. So female or male doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong here. And do not get mistaken that if someone who behaves in a very feminine manner, right, or dresses in a very feminine manner culturally, you know, Indian woman or Japanese woman who have been subordinated by that culture, right, to a certain degree, where it kind of has to behave in a certain way for the entertainment of men, does not necessarily embodies more sacred feminine. On the contrary, it's just a display, a kind of a mask that is being put on. We all live in overly masculinized society. What we need now is that beautiful balance. This is what our culture and civilization needs at the present. Because, and now we speak of the horizontal plane of reality. In the horizontal plane of reality, this needs to be brought into alignment before it can actually have that vertical shift. And although everything is rooted in that vertical, in that, let's say, axis, but up until this, let's say, realignment and reconciliation takes place, then how can there be true enlightenment? How can there be true self-realization? And this is why these very ancient teachings like Taoism, like Kabbalah, and you can find it in Sufism, you can find it in shamanic teachings, you can find it in, obviously, in yogic and most explicitly in tantric teaching. That process was viewed exclusively on the level of human physiology. The reconciliation was taking place nowhere but here and now, within this physiology, within this incarnated jiva, within this incarnated body.